Hi, this is Gordon De Silva, welcoming you back to the Business Owner Success Series, or BOSS. Today we're going to be talking about potential allowable expenses. So let's just start with a disclaimer. I don't normally start with a disclaimer, but this one it is necessary. The list we're going to be referring to and the items we're going to be referring to are not exhaustive, okay? So they're just meant as an indication to help you think about some of the expenses you might incur in your daily business lives. And then maybe ask the question, can I claim this or can I claim that? And we'll be happy to help. Okay. These items can be challenged by the Inland Revenue and Customs. The interpretation of the rules can differ between inspector and other inspectors and between accountants too. Remember, the purpose of a business has to be to make a profit. So if you're clever enough to make your expenses exceed your income every single time, one of the problems will be that you'll have a tax investigation almost certainly. The other one is you may not be held to be running a business, which means that the expenses won't be allowable. So bear those in mind when you're looking to claim as many expenses as possible. Being realistic, being sensible, being creative is all part of the process. And remember, finally, to seek advice before acting on anything you hear or read, whether it's from me, newspapers, or friends in a pub or a coffee bar. Always check with a professional before you take action on this information. So why is this important? Well, clearly we want to look to minimize your tax bill. One of the cornerstones of our business is minimizing our clients' tax bills. The other one is, of course, growing their business. And one of the side effects of growing a business is to increase tax bills, right? But that's beside the point. That'll give you more disposable income. This is really to allow you to keep more of what you earn. The reason for that is it leaves more for you, it leaves more for marketing, it leaves more for business development and cash flow, and of course some fun, which is really an important side effect of business. And by doing all of this, it creates enthusiasm. If you can keep more of your hard-earned income from the taxman's clutches, I suspect you might be a little bit more enthusiastic about getting up in the morning, right? I know I am. So let's look at the main rule we all must abide by. And the first rule is that, in fact the only rule that's really important here, is the expense must be wholly and exclusively for business purposes. Those two words, wholly and exclusively, are critical to the understanding, and these cause various problems for small businesses, certainly, in that some of the expenses we may look to claim are clearly not wholly and exclusively for business purposes. So let's look at some of the problem areas that may crop up. Home telephone, for example. A lot of my clients will use their home telephone to make some business calls. What the revenue's interpretation would be is that the rental of the home phone, because you have it for dual purpose, business and domestic, would be disallowed, but the business calls made on the home phone could be allowed, which means you'd have to itemize all the expenses on your home phone for business purposes. Now, a lot of my clients really have better things to do with their time than to detail every single home phone bill, so we may want to ignore that one. Similar issues with the internet, maybe between 15 and 30 pounds a month. Your internet costs you, if you're using it mainly for business purposes and domestic use is purely incidental, the revenue will allow that. But if it's really a home internet and all the kids are playing on it and you're using it for incidental use, then chances are it may not be allowable. And the weird thing is it may not be allowable at all. Usually what we look to do is be reasonable, and we look to claim a percentage. Cars are really a tax no-no for limited companies. For sole traders and partnerships, they are a useful benefit to have, especially if you have an expensive car that depreciates very quickly and very expensively and costs a lot of money to run. If that is the case, the 40p a mile really doesn't go very far to cover your car costs. So beware, cars is not a great one. Medical expenses, things like Bupa and stuff, these can be claimed by the company, but the tax charge will be passed directly onto the directors and staff. So not a brilliant use of resources there. So if you need it, you need it. If you don't do it just for tax purposes, as the view. Use of home, we've looked a little bit about the home telephone. Use of home, if you're using one room predominantly for business purposes and you live in a 3-bedroom house with a lounge and dining room, you may want to be looking at about 1/5 of your household costs, including gas, electricity, council tax, to offset against your use of home and maybe even mortgage interest. We have a tool which we can help you use to calculate the use of home. The problem is that also it becomes then rental income to you with no profit, because clearly you're going to be looking to charge the element that it's costing you. However, I suspect it probably really should be on the self-assessment return to disclose the income and the expenses to show a net break-even position. But it does add a small cost onto your self-assessment return bill. And of course, assets are treated slightly differently. We're going to be looking at that in a moment, but things like computers, furniture, cars, buildings, all dealt with very differently for tax purposes than the normal run-of-the-mill business expenses like insurance, accountancy fees, and so on. So let's go and look at assets. So here we go. Let's look at the type of assets. We've already talked about some of these. Laptops, maybe a PC, a desk, a telephone system in the office. The treatment is the revenue will allow you allowances between 20 and 50%, and in some extraordinary cases 100% off the cost of the asset when you acquire it. So let me give you an example. Just say we buy an asset, for example a laptop or a computer, and it costs us £1,000. If we were lucky enough to get a first year allowance of 50%, and I'm being very general here because all of this needs very specific advice, of 50%, you would get a £500 allowance against your profits for that year. In the second year, you wouldn't get 20% of the 1,000, you would actually get 20% of the remaining 500, which is £100. And so on. In the third year, you only get 20% of the remaining 400, which is £80. So that's how the allowances work on purchases of assets. And of course, we will help you interpret all these rules with your accounts as you submit the information to us. No problem with that. So let's look at some of the possible expenses. You know that you are allowed to get a sheet from us which has a list of all of these expenses. In fact, this is just an extract of that sheet with some of the expenses on it. And you remember it says the only possible allowable expenses. It doesn't mean they all will be allowed. It really does depend on your trade, and wholly and exclusively for the purpose of the trade. So I'll just pick up one or two. Materials, loose tools, things like if you're an electrician, your drills, drill bits, screwdrivers, all that sort of stuff. Big tools like things that may last you 3, 4, 5 years and may cost more than £100, those would be dealt with as assets, and you'd get a proportion of those each year. Travel, these include air travel, train, taxis, underground buses, all of that is allowable. You just got to document the cost and also where you went and where the business trip was and what for, in case the revenue asks. Obviously for the small train fares and stuff, that's not going to be a big issue, but if you have an air travel, for example, one of my clients had to go to see a client in Hong Kong. That was a significant airfare, and clearly he documented that. Postage and stationery, easy. Telephone, remember we said it excludes domestic phone rental. Mobile phone, if you're a limited company, please put the phone in the mobile phone in the company name, okay? Really saves a lot of trouble, and all the calls from your mobile phone can be made at the company expense. No problem with that at all. So I really recommend that. Laundry, if you're in a trade that you're going to go into dirty environments, for example, a builder or a decorator, then clearly you should be allowed to clean your clothes coming from that environment. Protective clothing, people often ask me, can I claim my suit? I only use it for business. Well, unless it has your business logo on it, then the answer is no. The revenue feel there is this duality of purposes. It may not be wholly and exclusively for business purposes, because you could wear it out to the pub after work. You could wear it to a wedding and so on. So the clothing that's allowed are typically overalls, boots, hard boot, steel toe cap boots, overalls, hard hats, all that sort of stuff. No problem. Uniforms, of course. If you have your uniform and it's got your business logo on it, certainly you can claim that. Accountancy fees, isn't that great news? You can claim your accountancy fees. It's all allowable for tax. Legal fees, a little bit tricky. I want to pick out on that one because in legal fees, if the fees are for a contract of employment, for example, or for taking someone to court for a bad debt, no problem with that. Legal fees for the purchase of a property, that would be part of the purchase of the property cost and not be an expense on the company. So just watch out for that sort of nature of legal fees. And the revenue are very interested in legal fees because it gives them a clue as to what else you're doing that may be of interest to them. For example, buying a property. Computer consumables and software. Fixed profit car scheme. The revenue have had this 40p a mile for the first 10,000 miles for absolutely years now. It doesn't go up with inflation. It doesn't go up with the oil price, and I don't think it ever intends to. So really, we need to be a bit more imaginative how we can get the revenue to pay for some of our car costs. And when we come to some imaginative tax schemes on expansion businesses later on, one of the side effects of that, it's very effective for buying cars. If you are going to be claiming motor expenses, for example, on a van, you can claim your petrol, your MOT, insurance, service and repair costs. No problem on that. Trade journals, if you go and buy or subscribe to trade journals relative to your trade, clearly you can claim those subscriptions, definitely, certainly for trade subscriptions. For example, we're members of the Federation of Small Business, and that's a subscription we claim for. I recommend that, by the way. It comes with some interesting free insurances as part of membership. The Federation of Small Business, FSB. Have a look at it on the web. Advertising for business, of course. Cleaning, we've talked about, but this may be office cleaning. Agents' fees, if you are renting a property, you may have an agent letting it out. Commissions, that would be allowable. Repairs, if you like, for example, we had a flood recently, we had to repair some of our floorboards and skirting and stuff. All those repairs would be allowable for tax. Salaries, clearly allowable. Insurance for office insurance. By the way, when you're talking about insurance, please talk to us. We have got some fantastic contacts on business insurance. Saves our clients between 10 and 20% quite regularly. Maintenance of office machines, for example, we have a photocopier we pay a maintenance agreement for. We can claim that, no problem with that at all. Pensions, great way of saving tax if you feel that's the right way for you to put money aside for your future. Remember, don't put all your eggs in one basket. We have excellent people we work with our clients who are really able to give great advice on pensions, on asset management, on wealth creation. So if you want to be earmarked for that service, please let me know and I'll put you in touch with them. Very impressed with the service. I use it myself. In fact, a lot of the things we do ourselves first, just to make sure that they are as good as we think they are before we recommend them to clients. So, for example, the office insurance, we took it out first to make sure we could get the savings before we ever recommended them to clients. Staff benefits, remember we talked about medical, permanent health insurance and stuff. Watch out for that because the people may be taxed on that. The exception obviously would be pensions. No problem with pensions at all. Permanent health, if you're insuring a key man, if you're ever looking to insure a key man, if there's two directors and the business needs both of them, and if one went ill or died, there would be a big problem. It's probably worth insuring that individual to make sure that you can either replace him or compensate yourself for the profits lost when that person's ill. So do watch out for that. Give me a call if you want to be put in touch and signposted to somebody who can help you with that. Courses specifically required for earning the income. So, for example, I'm required to do further educational courses on a regular basis. The fact that I actually love doing learning new things, especially on things like tax and marketing and selling, all just help make it easier. But I get all those courses reimbursed for me by the company, and the company can claim tax back. Very tax efficient way of acquiring knowledge. Bank charges and interest can be claimed on business bank accounts. Rental equipment, rent and rates, Rent and rates for business premises, of course. Commissions, I think we just mentioned earlier. Bad debts. If you bill someone and they don't pay you, clearly the fact they haven't paid you, you can get the tax relief on that. There are some specific rules on how long you have to wait and stuff for VAT, but generally that's not a big issue. Security costs in your alarm systems, that sort of thing. If you need a bodyguard, you may be able to claim that. Light and heat, clearly. Purchases for resale, and obviously that should be right near the top, because if you're buying stuff and then selling it on, for example, if you're buying computers and then selling them on, those costs of computers are clearly an allowable cost. Sundry expenses, now, this is a catch-all. We don't like too much in sundry because the revenue get very interested when the sundry figure becomes a big number. So it's worth categorizing your expenses quite carefully to make sure that this sundry thing, this dumping ground, doesn't become huge, because all we have to do then is spend more time extracting what's in it to make sense of it before the revenue queries it and we get into trouble with them for you on your behalf, really. Christmas parties, there's an allowance of Christmas parties around £150 a piece when I made this recording, but just keep in touch with the office to find out what the latest numbers are. And that's really for staff alone, remember. And by the way, this Christmas party thing can actually be spread over 2 parties. So you may want to do one in halfway through the year and another one in December. So other examples of some weird expenses we've come across. How about beer? Wouldn't having beer and wine be a great allowable expense? Well, we've got quite a few clients who have beer and wine as an allowable expense. The reason is they sell beer and wine. So on the basis that they are a pub, a hotel, clearly if they're selling beer across the bar, then the cost of them buying the beer and wine and alcohol and whatever else is clearly an allowable expense. Digital cameras and videos. We recommend having a digital camera and a video to take pictures of successful events in your business, testimonials, all that sort of thing. Have your digital camera and video in your business, and let the business have one. Tax advice. If you pay for tax advice, even though the tax will fall as a result of that advice, the revenue actually allow you to pay for that tax advice. Isn't that great for us? And for you, because we have got some really great tax reduction ideas, and by paying for them you can reduce your tax bill and get the expense of getting the advice allowed for tax as well. What a double whammy that is. Cycles, bicycles, you can claim that for tax. There's certain allowances, restrictions on it, but that's quite an efficient way of not only for the ecology, but also of getting a company to pay for your transport to and from work. Cars, like I said, there are a couple of nice little things. I think we're going to talk about that next, so let's just go into that. No, we're not. So let's go back into the cars. Cars, like I said, I think I've mentioned it, it's not a great tax planning idea. Unless you're renting cars, in which case it's fine. But if you're not, then call the office first if you're thinking about cars. Usually in a limited company, you get other tax benefits in a limited company. Cars is not one of them. Having said that, if you come across an expansion project, doing something new, doing something different, then definitely we can bring cars in, plus a whole load of other nice little things. So, worrying twist, the Inland Revenue can launch an investigation for no reason at all. So you could, one, make sure you get your records in on time, but you can also protect yourself with our cover for up to £70,000. Just ignore that spelling mistake there, I do apologise. For a cover for £70,000 of professional fees to protect you. So, from as little as £195, depending on your risk factor, that is available for you. So go ahead and consider that as a way of just reducing your risk. And guess what? The fee for that cover is allowable. So double whammy again. Lovely. So how do you protect these savings you're going to be making? You're going to be claiming all the expenses you can think of, making sure they're reasonable and they fit the rule of wholly and exclusively. How do you protect them? First one, keep your records right up to date, regularly. Keep all receipts, as many as possible. Just because you've lost a receipt or don't have one doesn't mean you can't claim the expense. Talk to us for further advice, okay? Give you an example. Just say you bought an item from someone for example, £100, and you didn't get a receipt for it. They said they were going to send you one, they never did, and then they disappeared. If you record who you bought it from, what you bought, maybe take a couple of digital photos of what you bought, record the date and time, all that sort of thing is all going to help. Now, there's no guarantee we can be successful with that, but the revenue isn't unreasonable. If you can still show that you're using the asset, clearly you would have had to buy it from somewhere, you could probably claim it. But ask for advice, okay? Don't assume something cannot be claimed. Ask for advice. Send us the information on time, every time. Really, really important. The best run businesses have control over their records, okay? It just is. It seems boring. We've got some great ways of minimizing that, but please keep your information on time every time to us. And make sure they're filed with the revenue. Now, obviously, if you're with us and you're giving them to us on time every time, they will always be filed with the revenue. And you remember a while ago we talked about insurance to cover, not insurance, but cover to cover you for up to £70,000 of professional fees should you be investigated. If you file your records late, then regardless of whose fault it is, you don't get cover. Okay, it's defaulted. It's a bit like insurance for a burglary. If you leave your doors open and somebody steals all your stuff, you're not going to be covered. Make the most of our help. We're here to help you. We're here to look after you. Please make the most of our help. Give us a call. If you're in doubt about anything, why lose out? All it does is cost you the cost of a call. We don't even charge for telephone advice, remember? If you're a client, just give us a call. You get that 2, 3, 5 minute, 10-minute call completely for no additional charge. It's part of our service to help you, to help us, to help you. Now, of course, if you find other friends who'd like our service and like to refer them to us, we'd be more than happy to take that business on. So what help is available from us? Well, we've got our simple bookkeeping spreadsheets and training set up a bit like this one, where there's a little bit of a video online along with the Excel template, and typically clients will tell us it takes between 2 and 15 minutes a month, depending on how many transactions they're putting in. If it gets too much bigger, then maybe some other software package might be better. From January, we're actually going online with our bookkeeping package, all things being equal. So hopefully by the time you listen to this, the online one will be available. That means every time you go online to check your email, you can go in and put in whatever receipts and invoices you've raised for that day, and you're covered. We have the information instantly, and it's all backed up, it's on a secure server, all that sort of good stuff is ready for you, and you have access to the information when you want, where you want, wherever in the world you are. Now that is quite cool. So that's going to be ready in January. We review your books and create an A4 profit report for you, tell you where you are, how you're doing, and what other tax planning measures might be suitable for you. We give you advice and opinion on tax planning within the year. Remember, if we have the information, we can help you. Okay, and of course we give you free advice on expenses. So please, please, please give us a call if you're in doubt. Remember, yes, I talked about that expansion plan. If you're looking to expand your business now or in the near future, talk to us. Okay, what this does is allows up to 5 years of profits to drop out of the tax net. So if you're making on this new expansion project £30,000 of profit, you could save up to £4,000 a year after costs. Now, I like that, don't you? £4,000 now over 5 years, £20,000 after costs. Now, could you use an extra £20,000? I don't care who you are, I'm sure you could, right? So please don't ignore this. If you're looking to expand in any way, I don't care whether it's a new product, a new method, you're doing it on the web and you haven't done it on the web before, all of those sort of things are available to you for on this tax strategy. So please, please, please keep talking to us regularly. Tell us what your plans are. That way we can keep you in the loop of what the tax strategies are doing. And remember, this strategy, one of the beautiful side effects is that it makes company cars quite a nice, attractive idea. How about letting the taxman pay for your next company car? Will that be nice? This is the way to do it. So this is our Business Owner Success series, our boss series. It's constantly being added to as and when we get more and more questions. We just put one of these up. If you want to know the latest, just check our website. Give us a call at the office on 0208 241 3000 and ask us if there's one available for the subject that interests you. And if you want to share them to people that you believe might like to use our services and benefit from the tax advantages we bring as well as the business advice we give, love to hear from them, and we'll give you a little thank you too. So that's us, Business Owner Success Series, Boss, Potential Allowable Expenses. Thank you for listening. That's been about 25 minutes, and I really appreciate your time. Hopefully it'll help you save more money. Probably the best 25 minutes you'll spend this week, right? Who knows? Cheers. Bye.